Blackbeard literally shook the world with his entrance, taking the most powerful man's fruit before declaring it's his era. Yet this is nowhere near Rox killing an admiral, meeting King of the World, and then creating a pirate crew that would kick off the most insane event in history, one that would literally have to be erased from the world. There will never be another Rox in One Piece. No man will ever shake the world in the way he did, and the only one who could possibly do that sits at the top of the world in a small castle. I'm thinking of you, Emu. Today, I want to examine the story of Rox, speaking of his numerous mentions, his action-filled life, and of course what his character means to One Piece, especially to Blackbeard's story. So with that, this is Rox. From an erased man to a full-blown backstory, I'll dive into the tale of the man with so much power and so much destruction, it was a genuine fear he could indeed become king of the world. One Piece's Wano arc kicked off the end, the final saga of this series 30 years in the making. Through this arc, many revelations came, yet one of the biggest reveals came before we even saw Luffy on the island. Big Mom speaks to Kaido over an open line. They both want Luffy dead. It's then Big Mom mentions Kaido owing her. They might as well get along like old times. This presents the obvious. At one point in time, these two emperors at least worked together, and while speculation is there, it's answered as we turn the pages. The two of them spoke on open lines and therefore the government heard them, which prompts the Vice Admiral to ask a question to Garp. The reason he's a Navy hero? That was due to Rox. Before Roger, it was his era, implying Big Mom and Kaido were part of this Rox era, but that was 40 years ago. Out of nowhere, this is just dropped on us. And with how silly Garp is, how randomly it's told, and how the scale of the scene is kept small, it seems rather unimportant. Yet the second you think about it, this is beyond insane. While yes, Roger was Pirate King, and being logical, this would kind of, make people forget what came before him. But it's certainly still very weird. Garp is known as a very big hero, and the one who made him this way, this Rox, is forgotten. This man who held an era of his own is gone. You can't even find people who think of him. Why does nobody seem to remember or even mention this being who held so much power? Well, soon after, when Big Mom and Kaido officially entered their alliance, the Navy is of course in a frenzy, yet this is when more of their previous work-togethers, specifically under the Rox Pirates, is revealed. The Rox Pirates were a group put together on Pirate Island to make one big score. They didn't get along well, constantly killing each other, yet they were fierce. This group housed Captain Rox, but also a young Big Mom, Kaido, Whitebeard, and even other legends like Shiki, Silver Axe, Captain John, and Wang Zi. I also want to explain the importance of putting together a crew on Pirate Island. Remember when Luffy fought Foxy in that Davy back game way back, where the winner takes one of the crew members? Yeah, Pirate Island was basically where this started. Meaning, Rox put together an insane crew just by winning in this game, over and over. He is strong, very strong. Again though, why would nobody know of his era? An era where he had all of these strong monsters he won through combat following him. Sengoku then drops a bombshell. King of the world. That was Rox's goal. He attacked the government wildly, as if he was some sort of terrorist organization, but the government covered it all up, all due to a fatal event 38 years ago. God Valley. This is where the Rox Pirates, the strongest crew in the world, were wiped out. They were a rampaging evil broken up by Garp. He was called a hero. Though like many things in the One Piece world, the public has only heard a partial truth. In reality, Rox was likely even more fearful than we can imagine, and Sengoku feeds this idea. The real truth is that in order to protect the celestial dragons in God Valley, Garp joined the later Pirate King, Roger, to fight the Rox crew. That is the God Valley incident. Now you won't find the island anywhere on the map. The island has vanished without a trace. The government wanted to hide it so bad, they erased all from existence. We're left with the horrifying idea that Rox broke too many of the world's taboos. He was Roger's first foe and likely his greatest. Rox D. Xebec. I love this reveal so much. Throughout One Piece, it's built up that Roger and Garp were essentially rivals. They're these two different epitomes of strength, but just on different sides of history. Yet all of a sudden, this idea is completely destroyed. In reality, the biggest event between these two was to destroy an absolute monster. A monster we haven't even heard of, yet a monster who apparently wanted to be king of the world. We've learned nothing about this guy, but all of a sudden he has an era. Was the start of a huge world event. Commanded legendary pirates that went on to defy the world in every single way. And the fallout from whatever this man did was so extreme he had to be erased. This creates expectations we can't wait to be fulfilled, as all we know about Rox is that he was an absolute monster. In the depths of Elbaf's underworld, a child cries. Yet in his despair, sword sounds echo from all around. A powerful man has appeared, Rox D. Xebec. He has two questions for the child. Is this Elbaf, and is Harold here? This is a flashback that takes place nearly 50 years before current day One Piece. It was a time where Harold was a king of Elbaf striving for peace, and Loki was a troubled child struggling to find himself. But Rox has just ejected himself right into this story. Rox learns Loki is Harold's child, and so he devises a plan to hurt Loki so his father will rush home. Rox charges his blade with Conqueror's Haki, Rox's sword attacks being described as a cannonball, it causing immense damage to this giant 10 times his size. And all he can do is laugh. Dude's pretty messed up. We then cut to Rox's first ever appearance to the world, the action that would put a pin the size of a star on his back. During a reverie years earlier, we watched the king of the world, Emu, walk amongst the sacred courtyard. Yet a man has found his way inside. This is an anomaly never before seen, nor ever repeated. And now Rox sits there with the gun. Rox described how he's a worshipper of Davy Jones, and while he didn't do anything, he excitedly stated he will be back. Yet it wasn't all over. While this incident never left the room, Rox would have another incident the same day. A sword clash with the giant Harold. Despite the size difference, Rox and the legendary giant were equal. They could sense something special within each other, and while there was no time to talk, it was immediately clear these two would become close and meet again. That day, Rox had killed the Navy Admiral, the highest authority, and lived to tell the tale. And that's just what people knew about. From then on, he attacked Navy ships, destroyed the gates of justice, and finally decided to use everything he'd gained to become a pirate. Rox's pirating was peculiar though. He insisted on using Davy-backed games to collect his crew, and before long he collected a crew of mismanaged powerful legends, all to take to Elbaf. This is exactly why we will never get another Rox. It is just impossible at this point in the story for another character to have such an insane entrance. This man met with King of the World, the only one to ever do it, killed an admiral and got away with it, then went on to cause a page full of chaos. Literally his crimes go top to bottom. Like, who else in One Piece is doing this? I also want to explain and highlight how Rox was built up to be a literal demon. All depictions of him we've seen have literally made him look like a wild animal, but right now, as of this moment, this doesn't really feel like the case. His actions are definitely pretty bad, his actions are definitely a bit crazy, but at the moment, I don't get an ounce of being evil just for the sake of being evil like I almost believed Rox was. Nothing like we've been led to believe. After all, we've been told this dude is so bad, he gets erased from history. Rox knew of Emu, the king of the world and the world's best kept secret. He spoke about how he worshipped Davy Jones, more on this later, all before he purposely sought out Harold. Right now, one thing is clear. Rox is motivated. He has a mission. All the things he's done, all the evil, has been for some grand goal. And from Sengoku's words earlier, we can only assume one thing, that being to be king of the world. Rock struts into Harold's castle. He's been dying to see him, and he wants Harold to join him. He's pretty brash with this, straight up telling Harold that his nature won't change. Harold refuses and directs his gaze towards Rox's crew. They could care less about Rox, but his plan on the other hand, that's very appealing. Pirate Island is then explained. A settlement full of the criminal underworld has popped up. The island has gold, and so the worst of the worst make it there in hopes of fortune. Rox then reveals he made a deal with the government. If he can get Pirate Island back, they'll pay him. Yet he won't give them the island. He'll take the money, run, and rule the island. He screams out that this is just the start. He'll wipe out the Navy and bring the Holy Land to its knees. In the end, he'll be king of the world. He finally appeals to Harold once more. No authority lasts forever. If they team up, they'll be unstoppable. The injured Loki watches stunned as Harold calls it all ridiculous and ignores Rox. Yet to everyone's horror, 4 years later Rox began his plan, shaking the world itself. And so yes, we finally get the declaration. Rox wants to be king of the world. And in the same moment, we get the why. He wants to bring the world government to its knees, as nothing lasts forever. This goes along very well with why he sneaked in to see Emu, as it's now a declaration to say he's going to end him. The next time you see me, well, it'll be over for you. But we should go ahead and define what exactly king of the world means. This is a goal not yet perfectly defined, but from Rox himself and other characters, we can get a pretty good idea of what king of the world entails to. Our best example is of course Emu. Emu is king of the world, the government, the group that governs the entire world, and he does it all through controlling. He erases what he doesn't want to exist, like we know later happens with Rox. I don't think you can be faulted to say right now, Emu is king of the world in the way Rox meant, and as his actions imply, king of the world very well could be controlling all. The other king position comparable would be that of king of pirates, a position that is easily labeled as say being the freest on the seas, the ability to do anything and not be controlled by anyone, as Roger was, sailing freely and finding the ultimate treasure. The reason I bring the latter up is because they clash perfectly. If Pirate King is being the freest in all the seas, then king of the world must be one who controls. We can then equate Rox's goal of being king of the world to being one who is in control of the world. We see this already, as while he's clearly friendly with Harold, and I don't doubt he feels genuine friendship, it's all with an end goal of gaining immense power. Rox can be a chill guy, but at the same time, it can be about power. This is Rox's goal, king of the world. It's likely about the power he could have if he was king of the world. But with that out of the way, I want to touch on a relationship Rox had with a certain character, Loki, as despite Rox being so outrageous, it almost draws a parallel with Luffy of all people. Our interactions between these two are far in between, but what we have illustrates one thing, admiration. Loki admired Rox. When Loki spoke to Luffy about Shanks, he instantly understood how he felt. He idolizes Shanks, even telling him that he too felt the same way about someone, Rox. But he was too young to make his way into Rox's tale, instead being forced to live his own. This is very similar to a kid Luffy. He wanted to join Shanks so bad, but was rejected. He was just a kid. Still, Luffy took Shanks' character to heart, and everything as we know happened, and Luffy modeled himself on the kind of guy Shanks was. And well, if you take one look at Rox and Loki, you can see the young boy did the same. As it's told Loki later would, he went out and caused havoc to government vessels. He followed Rox's very hands-on view of following your values. Just a pretty cool connection I'd like to ask you to remember. But with this, Rox indeed took over Pirate Island, this leading numerous powerful figures to him. We then cut to him creating the iconic ice on the fish-like Pirate Island rock. Him yelling out into open air, he wants 2 devil fruits. One is likely found on Elbaf, Its power will truly only be unlocked if Harold eats it. This fruit is all but confirmed to indeed be the fruit Loki eats later, a mythical zone fruit, model Needhogger, which transforms Loki into a huge flying dragon thing. It's important to note that in Norse mythology, the appearance of this being signals the final events of the world, Ragnarok, appearing as the world is covered in havoc, the likes of which include the world being underwater. Rox getting this could resemble the ultimate power play, as not only is it incredibly powerful, but Emu without a doubt fears it in some way, knowing of its grand importance to the world. And since Rox already knows about things like Emu, I'd assume he knows many of the world's other hidden truths, likely understanding the world flooding, and other big things like Luffy's special fruit, the Nika fruit, and one that also seems to be special, Blackbeard's fruit. The question is in the air to this day what that other fruit was, but we can make a pretty good guess it was Blackbeard's, as a connection we'll later see, but more on this soon. But after this, Rox also mentions wanting to find the Gallia, a legendary group of giant shipwrights who are lost to time. It's part of the reason why Rox wants Harold. They'd listen to him far before him. Rox then stands up with his entire crew, it having grown in the last few years. He tells that Elbaf is key to taking down the Holy Land. If they don't trust it, get lost. But if they're in, he'll show them the peak of this world. From there, they go on to make many raids. One being shown where they steal the money from a charity that was actually taking money and not being a charity. Either way, a little bit messed up, but we kinda expected this. Rox is painted to be a villain. We also get lots of moments showcasing how unstable Rox's crew is. Shiki literally tries to kill a crew member, and everyone else is just constantly arguing. Yet interestingly enough, the second Rox shouts an order, things fall into line. It's pretty clear that despite being a villain of the world, his character is something people were drawn to. Rox is demonized, for good reason. He was a monster who commanded a bunch of monsters. But even then, these monsters seem to respect him. And I think that's one of the biggest parts to explain what kind of guy he was. Rox was charismatic. He was a guy who others easily followed. After all, at any time, I'm sure these guys could have ganged up on him, killed him, and taken the crew for themselves, but it never happened, did it? It's also a pretty big statement that he even had peaceful men like Whitebeard behind him. And Whitebeard seemed to really like Rox, they were seen a lot together. And he even took in a boy very essential to Rox's tale, his son. But there's other cases too, like Big Mom helping him out with their info network. And of course, Loki really respected Rox. He was just a guy who brought others to him. But like with Harold, while I'm sure he did feel a good amount of care for these people, he did use them to pillage. He used them to gain, and in turn used them to gain control of the things he wants. Rox is charismatic, it's very apparent, but we see that he uses it to control, perfectly in line with being king of the world. Around this time, the world moves pretty fast. Rox continues appealing to Harold. The government becomes more wary and aware of Rox's actions. And Shaki moves into Pirate Island, becoming a central place to see this heartthrob celebrity of the seas. All as the government begins making moves against Rox, proposing the idea that if Harold wants to join the world government, he will need to kill Rox. This leads them to many legendary clashes. Harold indeed took the government's words to heart, and for the sake of his people, he's willing to kill a friend. Rox is of course upset. The government is using him for military might, while Harold is sure they'll bring Elbaf into the circle of the world government, creating a truly peaceful nation for his people. Rox angers for a final time. He will never invite Harold again. And so, since they couldn't see eye to eye, their friendship ended here. Rox without a doubt knows the hard truths of the world. He met Emu after all. And so while Harold is a power play he wants for his own schemes, he also must hate the truth that Harold will be used by this disgusting government. I do truly believe Rox considered Harold a friend, as scenes we'll later see, but he also definitely wanted him for power. Both can be true. He knows the government is inherently wrong and that they are without a doubt using his heartfelt wishes against him. The worst part about this though is that Rox is erased from everything at the end of this tale, meaning Harold is left with what could have been. He eventually comes to understand why Rox was doing what he was doing. But the worst part is, he never understood it while Rox was actually alive. It's just a pretty tragic tie-in to Rox's tale. Shaki has been kidnapped. The attacker killed one of Rox's crew with seemingly ease. It happened in a flash, hours. Yet the incident following this happened just as quick. The sources revealed that Shaki has become a prize in a 6th Celestial Dragon game. She's one of many things gathered on the island that are incredibly valuable. And so, hearing about it all, Rox is up in arms. They're going to God Valley. On the way there though, Rox finds himself in a chance meeting with Harold. It's a bit hostile of course, yet they then speak in private, and here things are kind. It would seem while Rox has given up on having Harold and his crew, he still wants to be friends. And so he shares a very special secret. His real name is Davy D. Xebec. It's a clan name of a group the government has long tried to cover up, the descendants of pirate Davy D. Jones. They're part of the underworld and continue to live on even today. While an insanely interesting revelation, Rox goes on. 2 years ago he had a child, and to keep them out of danger, he sent them to his homeland and the Davy clan for help. Issue is, it's God Valley, the place where Shaki is, and a place the government is having a witch hunt. While he's sure this wasn't to lure him in, he is sure it's some sick trick of fate. He needs to help his wife and his kid escape. So one final time he asks, Harold, help him. He refuses and Rox attacks his ship, keeping up the front of them being true enemies. At God Valley, it's begun. Shaki is brought out as Rox's wife and kid, a young Blackbeard, hide in fear. All as the Davy clan is cast forth, the crowd chanting hatred for them. Wiping them out will be a blessed day. And all of a sudden, so many truths about Rox were revealed. And while I will speak about Davy Jones in a bit later, right now I want to speak about a bigger truth. One the community has long assumed, that being that Rox is Blackbeard's father. This makes perfect sense, as if Blackbeard and Luffy are two sides of the same coin, a dynamic building up to a final villain moment, then of course Blackbeard is going to have his own Roger, a being with a will that was important to be passed on to him. Of course it makes perfect sense for that to be Rox. He passed the will down to his child, and it's clear as day with all of Blackbeard's actions. Blackbeard is the definition of chaos. His acts are cunning but explosive, best seen in his grand entrance to the world. And while Blackbeard hasn't yet stated a clear goal beyond pirating, we can assume he wants to be king of the world as Rox does. It's very much like father, like son. Blackbeard also took over Pirate Island, like his father had once did. Blackbeard's ship is called Saber of Xebec, as if saying Blackbeard is his father's blade, his will. And finally, Blackbeard's fruit. Blackbeard is the dark fruit, it allowing him to control darkness. Him using it for attacks called things like Liberation and Black Hole, as if he's sucking everything into darkness to liberate it, as if he's trying to topple Emu, king of the world. Blackbeard is the present embodiment of everything we've seen Rox do, and everything we will see Rox do in this video. Him being his son makes perfect sense. Blackbeard is the embodiment of everything we've seen Rox do, and everything we will see Rox do. It makes perfect sense that he is indeed his father. And as I said earlier, if Rox's will is to become king of the world, control it all, then of course he would pass this will down to his son, who seems to follow all the same actions. Oh, and earlier I mentioned Blackbeard's fruit being the other fruit Rox likely searched for. Reason being, like father like son, but for some reason Blackbeard knew to search for this fruit. It was the one he needed for his goal. Rox instilled importance in this other fruit, implying it would likely help him command the world, and if it was his son's dream fruit, a son with seemingly the same goal, then I just can't help but reach the conclusion that it was the same other fruit. The idea of Rox having a son also sparked another very funny idea, one that's pushed even harder since it's confirmed Rox has blue hair. That being, he's also Buggy's father. Yes, Buggy the Clown. Also, look at his wanted poster. That is literally Buggy's pose. It's kinda interesting. This would just be hilarious if true. How perfect would it be that the guy who keeps failing upwards ends up having another extremely important figure in his beginnings? But with these reveals come chaos, as the shore of God Valley is literally rocked by Rox. He's shown up with this crew to complete the biggest raid of his life. At the same time their fight begins, the Roger pirates also appear, leading to an ultimate showdown between pirates and the government, when our last player of the event, Garp, appears for. With this, the stage is set. Rox seeks his family as his powerhouse of a crew cause all sorts of chaos. They argue while nearly killing each other, yet unite as Garp blows them away. All his legendary rivals like Roger and Whitebeard clash. Soon enough, we watch Rox's perspective. On his shoulder, he carries his family as he runs. The remnants of the Davy clan have been transformed into demons of sorts. The Holy Knights chase him too. They know he's powerful and now know he's part of the Davy clan. No matter what, Rox's situation is horrible. Rox's wife then begins to grow angry. She's part of the clan too. She understands their fate. Let her down. She's not the kind of helpless woman who clings to him and can't protect a child. He wouldn't have fallen in love with her if that wasn't the case, right? Rox understands and lets her down. She's right even though he clearly fears the what ifs. The woman then states that if they catch her, she'll kill Teach and then end herself. And Rox accepts it. Being stopped or killed by the government is a way worse fate to them. It goes to show how against the government the Davy clan and Rox truly are. St. Garling then catches up with Rox, forcing the monster to bring his sword down in a force that shakes the island. A moment a young Blackbeard looks at with awe. In this moment all comes to a head. Kuma saves many, treasures are unearthed, betrayals shake the island, and the government watches all with a certainty that Rox must die. What remains of the Rox pirates, Garp and Roger, stand strong as the sky cracks with Conqueror's hockey. Emu is taken over St. Saturn. While nobody can believe what's before them, Rox can. It's something he says represents the world. Rox looks up at the hideous thing before him. It wants him, right? Emu instantly recognizes him as Davy Jones. Rox corrects him, but understands. Promises are meant to be kept. All before Emu states his kind will be erased from history. His world is still incomplete. In this moment, Rox, Kaido, Whitebeard, Roger, and even Garp, all seeing the instinctually evil thing before them, strike with all their might. The attack exploding into darkness and Conqueror's hockey being sent out for miles. Despite it all, Emu still stands, and matter of fact, he can see them. New Davies, a woman, child, trying so hard to live. They cannot be unleashed upon the world. Rox strikes in anger. Emu is obviously speaking of his family, yet despite being cut to bits, he stabs Rox. Emu states he will end the Davy bloodline himself. He will go slaughter his family. Domi Reversi. Rox begins to transform, but he's not willing to go just like that. He screams to Emu, Davy D. Jones was once king of the world. Emu panics and grows angry. Never, not for an instant. His grievance between Davy and him has nothing to do with this moment. Rox pushes on. If that's the case, then why is he so panicked? It terrifies him that one day Davy's will shall be passed on and he must complete the promise. Rox yells out, what's more frightening, Davy D. Jones or Joy Boy? Emu has reached the breaking point. Once he has eradicated them, they will never be seen again. Harold shall be one of many helping this cause. And so, it's time for Rox to do his part. Davy D. Jones, a legendary pirate, said in the same sentence as Joy Boy, was once king of the world. and Rox is the descendant of the. Just how insane. Davy Jones was revealed about 800 chapters earlier, said only once by name. Davy Jones was a pirate cursed by a demon to live deep down on the sea floor. This with Rox's declaration that he was once king of the world and Imu's shock and hatred implied that he was once a deadly enemy to the current king of the world. Imu eventually beat him and banished him to the sea floor, leaving only loose descendants of his clan. And from him, Rox's goal of being king of the world descends. It's as if fate chose one with these ambitions to be part of this special clan, as it is a pretty common One Piece thing for things from the past to appear in the present. This sets up an idea of a past will. If we say Davy Jones's will is to have a new king of the world, well, Rox would embody this, but Rox failed. And so who else to pass this to than his child? It's only perfect that Blackbeard is now the true embodiment of Davy Jones's will. Joy Boy and Davy Jones once existed in the same past. They were just uttered in the same sentence, and now in the same present, they both currently exist once more. Rox slams to the ground. Everyone wonders what happened as Rox begins to change. In his mind, he laments, "Damn, he's going to disappear." Imu has now taken full control of Rox, and he is using him to attack everyone. Rox, a descendant of a once king of the world, a pirate with dreams of becoming his own king, will now destroy everything he's built, crumbling himself in the process. Rox strikes Kaido, throws Big Mom back, and rushes Whitebeard, clashing with him in a blow that crumbles God Valley itself. All alongside the island, it's instantly clear something big is going to happen. Many flee, and Rox himself, still controlled by Imu, finds his family deep in the forest. His wife cries. He lost. He had to face off against Imu and save them, but it was too early for them to fight. She holds Blackbeard, all before making a mad dash into the water. As Rox brings his sword down and cannonballs pelt the shore, Kuma appears to teleport the family away, leaving Rox to bring his sword down in another blow that destroys the island. While ultimately his family has escaped, Rox understands that his time is up. He can no longer resist and Imu will control him till he's dead. Though finally, Rox finds himself before Garp and Roger. And while he can't physically speak, he echoes in his mind for these two to kill him, put him out of his misery. Due to some sort of miracle, both Garp and Roger hear his voice. As Rox dashes into attack, they understand but stay mixed. Every action tells a different story, but as Roger clashes and Garp punches Rox back, it's clear what must be done. Their attacks continuously split the sky. It's a signal of the threat Rox has become, and as all says, this is where he must end. Together, Garp and Roger fight against the controlled Rox, all as everyone involved leaves the island in a hurry and the government readies to erase it all. Rox is strong, and so Garp and Roger come to the conclusion they'll have to hit him with the critical hit of Supreme King Haki. Rox stomps towards them, his face full of tears. His sorrow is clear. This is an event that should have never happened. It's an event that defines exactly what's wrong with the world. And the worst part is, they have to stop it. In one huge strike, Rox is struck down, his crew is dismantled, and any potential he ever had is snuffed. Soon enough, Rox awakens. He's himself again. But will he get to live? The Holy Knights then appear on the horizon. Nope, it's really the end of the line. He doesn't resist their blades, rather thinks on one final thought. Roger, Garp. He's glad they stopped him. Thanks. And this marks the end of Rox, the to-be king of the world that shook everything the One Piece world has ever known. And I think we can all agree that if circumstances were a bit different, Rox likely could have done it. He could have become king of the world. And while of course I'm going to give a proper conclusion to Rox, we do have some reactions following his death. Harold, his best friend, is incredibly distraught. His push for his causes was exactly why he couldn't help. Rox was his greatest friend, and he turned his back on him. He left him to die. No matter what, he can now not turn back. He has lost too much. We also see Harold's son, Loki's reaction, and he cries, recalling a warm moment between the two of them. He told Rox he thinks he is Nika, the warrior of liberation who laughs as he tears down the world. Rox can't believe it. Tear it down, he's gonna be the king. He tells Loki the tale of Galleria, the shipwright giants, again saying if Harold joined them they'd be unstoppable. Yet Rox can understand why he doesn't. It's for love. And again, thinking of the memory, Loki cries into the sea. And this is why we spoke of Loki earlier. In the same way Luffy has a good judge of character and was pushed by his idol, Shanks, Loki has a pretty good judge of character and was pushed by his idol, Rox. What Loki saw was that Rox was just like Tails from his childhood. Rox was like Nika, the free sun god. This creates the idea that while Rox is indeed a lot like the future Blackbeard, maybe he indeed was also a lot like Luffy, though this is immediately followed up by Rox wishing to find these giant outlaws, also they can be under his command. This back-to-back contrast tells me all I need to know, that Rox is essentially a middle ground meant to represent both. Rox is a villain, but just as much a hero. Rox has goals that resemble a hope that someone takes their own hands and brings stuff down, like the legendary sun god, Nika. While on the other hand, Rox has goals that resemble darkness. His methods were cruel, there's literal pages describing his crimes. He wanted things clearly under his command, and it was all to become king. Rox wanted Emu gone, an act that is without a doubt good for the world. And he was doing it by himself in a way that inspired many like Loki. But the faults come when you realize Rox didn't care for that. It was for himself. It was so he could be king of the world and in turn, he himself have power. The point is, you can have a bad guy that does good things. You can be a good person with bad goals. Good and evil isn't black and white. Rox can be a savior, destroying the heinous government. But Rox can also be evil, as his definition of king of the world could have been just as bad as his actions. Ultimately, we don't know what Rox would have done because he didn't get the chance to do it. Maybe he was bound to become a great king of the world, maybe not. Maybe he would have been a king just as destructive as his crimes. We will truly never know, and I think that's a good thing. It makes Rox a true middle ground between both extremes, setting a perfect middle ground for the generations that come right after him. The story we currently watch, one he himself has a weird hand in knowing Loki and Blackbeard. It all seems a bit too perfect. There will never be another Rox in One Piece. Of course, I can say that in actions, nobody will ever have such an explosive entrance to the world. But with everything considered, I don't think there will be anyone who ever kicks anything off in the same way Rox did. I love the idea that Rox is truly where it all started. His era was a catalyst to everything, making him the central point for everything, despite himself being erased from history. Rox kicked off God Valley. It was his people and family chaos erupted around, all in an era that was called his own. This incident would spawn Dragon, the revolutionary currently trying to break up the government. This incident would make the government more fearful of Roger, as well as giving him Shanks, a boy that would play an essential role to fate. This incident created numerous pirate crews, all full of powerful figures, and many like Kaido and Whitebeard who would become emperors. Finally, this incident would be erased, setting a dark precedent for how far the government will go to cover things up. It's an incident that proves true evil exists to those who know about it. Rox had his hand in it all, and if that isn't a statement, then I don't know what is. And while Rox himself started so much, he started so many tales, and I think through Blackbeard we're gonna only learn more about him and Davy Jones, I just can't take that and have it be that. I can't help but talk about Rox's character himself. Rox has the same grandiose ambitions as Luffy. While the substance isn't the same, the way they look at these goals seems to be the same. Nobody can stop them, their strive is infinite, and the only thing they want is something that defines the world itself. It's human to have a goal, and it's even more human to put in the pain, the sacrifice, and the work for that goal. But the best part of it all is that when his loved ones were impacted, his family, he sailed right into what he knew was going to be a war. Despite his goals and ambitions, Rox faced death head on, and in his final moments, he cared for others all before himself. Rox was human. He had wants, needs, loved ones. And with those in mind, he did everything he could to achieve what he wanted, even if it wasn't all good. Yes, Rox was a villain in One Piece. The story will never not label him as one, but a human can never stop being a human. And I think that Rox showed us that despite wanting the world for yourself, you can be one. But with this, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know some cool One Piece topics that I should maybe cover. And with that, that's it. Thank you. Bye.